Live from the Score Atlanta television studios in North Atlanta, this is Georgia High School Sports Daily, powered by IBEW Local 613.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Happy Tuesday. We got a jam-packed show for you guys for today. We'll get into it in our segment 2 with Etowah baseball coach Greg Robinson. They got a big series coming up against the Walton Raiders. We'll also have our baseball rankings as well. Craig has some big changes. We'll talk about some big-time matchups coming up as well, including a really good Parkview team and what they've been able to accomplish so far this season. Then we'll obviously get into it with Roman football head coach John Reid. Talk about the latest that's going on with the Wolves and their team looking this year. Got a pretty special 2028 class that not a lot of people know about. So we're going to ask him about that as well. And Hayden's high school hits, get his thoughts and opinion on the latest On3 industry rankings that recently just dropped here for the 2027 class and the article he just worked on for Class 2A blog. But Craig, jam-packed show, very baseball intense for today. Just what's your thoughts on that big series with Walton and Etowah coming up?
Yeah, that's going to be very interesting. They played last year, but this was when Walton was in 7A, Etowah was in 6. And Walton played them very well. The thing about this year's Etowah team, they're coming off a state championship. We'll talk to their coach, Greg Robinson, in the second segment. This year, they're coming off the state championship. They're in the highest classification now. And then they've only lost one game. They've been on an absolute dominant run. For Walton, they've had the exact start they wanted to have in their region play. They swept North Cobb. They got the win over Cherokee after losing game 1. They've had success against North Paulding also. They've set themselves up to go head-to-head with Etowah and steal that region title. They've both got incredible rotations. I think it's going to not only depend on the players, but how the coaches want to manage the situation.
Yeah, 100%. And what's just your thoughts real quick on just the, obviously great rotations, but just the bullpen for both? Who do you think is deeper? Gotta ask.
Well, it's funny. Last year, I talked to Kell's coach a lot. They played both. He said he felt like Etowah was the best rotation in terms of their 1 and 2, but he said offensively, he felt like Walton was one of the best teams he faced all season. So, I mean, to me, those were the two teams that Kell's coach was talking about. I think it's very even, but you would have to give it to Etowah at this point just because they won last year. They're a little higher ranked, and I feel like their resume has been a little better just the last 2 years. But what's cool about this year's baseball season, you have a 2-time defending champion in Lowndes. You have a Grayson team that made it all the way to the finals last year. They haven't gone away. They started, I think, the season 0-4. They're like 14-2 since. So you have those teams playing well. You have a new Parkview head coach. They're playing very well. And then you have Etowah coming up into the highest classification. So it opens things up in 5A and then makes 6A that much harder.
Well, there you have it. I mean, it's going to be a lot of fun to continue to watch it. And I think we're about mid-season, right, Craig? Or we're a little bit past mid-season?
It's in the middle for sure. So I'd say we're in the middle of the region schedule. So if you have 12 region games, you're probably 6 in at this point.
Gotcha.
If you have a larger region, you're probably 9 in.
All right, well, there you have it, man. That is our baseball. We'll have more coverage, obviously, here in our latest segments. We're going to go ahead and get to our headlines and start with Miley Chanel. She set a new school record in track and field for Kell High School. Phenomenal performance from her with a 12.04 time, a record that stood for 16 years prior to this weekend in their 100-meter. Here is some footage, as you guys can see here. That previous record was set by I. Christian in 2009, and as you guys can see, they're just pulling away from the competition, a 12 and nearly a sub-12 time for her. So congratulations as track and field continues to go underway.
Yeah, that is fast. And so I think it's just a matter of circumstances in terms of my blogs. I focused a lot on the boys' side just because Maurice Gleaton's been just dominating. It's so exciting. He nearly broke 10 seconds last week. But my next blog, I promise you, I'm going to hit the girls' side for track and field. It's a big result right there.
Yes, it is. All right, our next headline, Irwin County officially announced their football schedule. Some pretty good games in here. We know how good of a football team they are. But as you guys can see right here via Larry Roper 13, they're going to play a scrimmage at Cairo August 1st. Then they're going to play Dodge County, another scrimmage. So 2 good scrimmage games to see where they're at. And then they're going to go against Fitzgerald, Worth County, Schley County. We know how good they've been over the last few years. They're going to also play against Dooley County, Cook County, and then they're going to have at Charlton County, Clinch County, Lanier County, and Brooks County as well. So, Craig, just what is your initial, as we look at this graphic, initial thoughts on just this schedule and the teams that they're going to go against?
Yeah, Irwin County always tests themselves, and that's because they're usually in one of the toughest regions in that classification. They've played up a lot. You see them playing Fitzgerald. That's a Class A Division I school that was a very talented last year. What's interesting about that, you look at the last decade, I think they might have the highest wins per season average, but it's not all blowouts like we see that some people that have a weaker region, they just find a way to win. That comes from the conditioning, the coaching over the years, and just the will to get it done. It's another great schedule, and I mean, you close out the season with Brooks County. I think that's the big one right there.
Yeah, and they are loaded with talent. And George Lamons, who's recently donned a 4-star as well, along with Travis Stevenson, who was a Georgia Tech commit here recently this past week. That'll be obviously a great contest. But the games I like, Craig, Schley County and Cook, I think those are really good games just to see where they're at early on in the season, as you can see there, right? They'll play Schley on August 29th early on, and obviously they'll play Cook on September 19th. And you can't forget about the Purple Hurricanes and Fitzgerald. They're good every single year, always a tough team.
Yep, I think that, then Turner County, October 3rd, I think that'll be another region matchup.
100%. All right, guys, let's go to our next headline for today. That's Gwinnett athletes shine at Gail Devers Track Invitational. This past week, the Buford girls had the best team finish for Gwinnett in second with 60 points, 5 behind champion Heritage. Mill Creek girls were third at 44, while Mountain View was seventh with 31. South Gwinnett, ninth at 27.5. Also were in the top 10 among the 36-team girls field. Gwinnett was represented in the boys' top 10 by third place Buford, fourth place Grayson, sixth place Mill Creek, and 10th place South Gwinnett. Vestia Hills out of Alabama won the 35-team boys meet with 77 points, and Lacey Hughes took second at 56. 8 Gwinnett athletes were first in the individual events, with Buford's Olivia Harris leading the way. The reigning Daily Post Girls Runner of the Year won the 200-meter race with a 23.83 second time and 400 in a 53.13 time. Gwinnett had 4 individual boys champions, including 2 Buford athletes, Cameron Bethea in the 100 at 10:50, and also Marcus Raspberry Jr. in the discus at 156.4.
Yep, and Olivia Harris, she is a name to watch for. I feel like she can win multiple championships this year in state. She's had great finishes as an underclassman, and she was the reigning Gwinnett Daily Post Runner of the Year last year. All right, headline number 4 is a pretty crazy one. Allatoona no hits Southeast Whitfield for an entire 3-game series. So game 1 was decided 17-2, and then they scheduled a doubleheader later in the week. Allatoona took those 19-0 and 15-0. So the winning pitchers in game 1, Cooper Underwood. You had game 2, Will Clark, and then Cohen Bohannon got it done game 3. This was Friday's Region 7 Class 4A doubleheader. And that no hit in the first game, I think they had about 4 walks. That was how they gave up the 2 runs. But 3 solid wins, and this is Allatoona coming off their big series win over Cartersville, and then I'm pretty sure they just had a big win over Kell. So, I mean, they've been rising in the poll, and to beat Cartersville, a top 10 matchup, and then to handle an opponent like that shows their focus. They are completely locked in. To not give up an entire hit for a 3-game series shows their depth at pitching, the defense, and obviously the bats. That was probably a very fun series that they will not forget.
100%. I mean, like you said, defense wins championships. That's not easy to do in baseball, as you alluded to, Craig. To be able to hold them to no hits in that one, I mean, that's absolutely incredible.
Yep. Still not as crazy as the 12 stolen bases we saw earlier that Walker did this season. But that right there, a great stat. We'll have more information probably on that at scoreatl.com. But once again, Cooper Underwood, Will Clark, Cohen Bohannon, 3 pitchers combining for that incredible achievement. All right, headline 5. The Lassiter girls soccer holds off River Ridge. Lassiter scored 2 early goals in Friday's match and held off River Ridge. This would have been a potential upset if River Ridge would have won for a 3-1 win at Frank Fillman Stadium to stay in first place in Region 6 Class 5A. Lassiter, ranked number 2 in the state, won its 9th straight game and improved to 11-1 overall and 4-0 in the region. River Ridge lost its 3rd straight and dropped to 4-7 and 2-3. Still have their playoff hopes alive, though. The Knights settled down and controlled the pace for most of the first half. A goal by Pope Skurlock from 20 yards out made it a 2-1 score at the half, and it continued to be an evenly played game until midway through the second half when Lassiter's Sophia Trevino launched a shot from 30 yards out that just cleared the crossbar and gave the Trojans a 2-goal cushion. So they would be a team to watch in Class 5A this year. All right, headline 6, Pope. This is baseball, sweeps River Ridge for a Region 6 Class 5A lead. The Greyhounds downed the Knights in a key Region 6 Class 5A doubleheader, winning Game 1 11-5 and Game 2 5-4. Caden Campbell went 2 for 3 with a double. Matt Levinson earned the win. And then in Game 2, John Stutzer, he had the big grand slam in the last series. He went 2 for 3 with a solo home run. Campbell was 3 for 4 with a double and RBI. Ben Hill had 2 hits, including a double and RBI. Matt Levinson went 2 for 3 with the double, also got the win pitching. And then while Tanner Murnau and Matt Sturdom each had a hit and RBI, Pope is now 15-3 and 9-0, and they are hosting Woodstock tonight.
Big time series coming up for them and a big sweep for Pope. Always good in baseball, Craig. Just what's your prospects on them just so far this year? How dangerous can they be maybe?
Yeah, well, last year was a huge, I think it was a semifinal series, Houston County, Pope. Pope had, I think, gotten the win, but it was those two teams. Then you had Etowah eventually taking it. I think this one's wide open. We might see a rematch between Pope and Houston County, and they're as good as it gets. Both of them have, I think, the same win streak right now. They only have 3 losses apiece. It's like 15-3, 16-3, and they both have won 10 straight heading into this stretch. So they most likely will get the top seeds. But for me, John Stutzer, he's been, we've talked about some of the best athletes we've seen this entire season. Guys like Lee County's quarterback, Caden Gilstrap at Walton. John Stutzer, what he's done at Pope this year is unbelievable. He led them in receiving. I'm pretty sure he led them in rushing. And in baseball this season, he's a power hitter. He's had a home run pretty much every recap I've seen this season. And he's a big playmaker for them.
100%. It's going to be important, especially down the stretch when you need offense and you got to get those runs in. So we can't wait. We're going to have more baseball coming up here soon. Obviously, after the break, we will obviously talk to Etowah's head coach, G. Rob, as Craig likes to call him. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back here on the Peachtree Sports Network.
Great teams are committed, focused on the details, and work hard to be their best. From practice to games, right down to their gear. Your field is a critical part of the game that allows your athletes to showcase their athletic abilities. Sports Turf is committed to bringing your team innovative sports surfaces with unparalleled performance. You bring the vision. Our team brings it to life.
This makes my dad proud. He went through his whole career as an employee. Now I'm the employer, something he didn't achieve.
We are signatory to IBEW and do IBEW people wherever we go that we feel like they are faster and better than any of our competition.
The advantages of being a signatory contractor is you're trained employees. You have unlimited manpower. It allows me to bid on jobs that I ordinarily would not go after.
We celebrate the athletes, the buzzer beaters, the record breakers, the wins. Now, it's time to celebrate the people behind it all. The advice givers, the community shapers, the game changers, the life changers. It's time to celebrate our coaches. Join all of us at BSN Sports and show your coach some love by sharing their story with #ThankYouCoach.
Man, you know how to do this? Man, I don't even know. I was flipping burgers last week.
Violation, unsportsmanlike conduct, impersonating a craftsman.
Skilled trade unions are well-trained career pros, not part-timers. Construction is a rewarding and lucrative career with the advancement potential, but you have to do it the right way with the right training. Learn how you can be a pro. Find your career at GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is brought to you by the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers, Local 613. Electrify your career.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. So we're not going to waste any more time. We'll get right into it with head coach Greg Robinson of Etowah. What's going on, Coach? How's everything? Yes, sir. All right, Coach. So I want to ask, another great year for you guys, 18-1 to start. You guys were 35-1 last year, or 35-4 last year, won a state championship. Just What's your thoughts on the team this year? They're kind of humming at the right time, playing some really good baseball. What's your thoughts on the team this year? And then, Coach, just unmute yourself. We can't hear you. Sorry.
Any better?
That's better. Yes, sir.
I need to put my glasses on. Speaking of being a visionary, we're just trying to create our own identity so far this year. We lost some pieces with some good arms and some good guys in the dirt. It's just taking a little while to get the pitches in the right places. And we're real pleased so far that the pitching's been good. Some timely defense, we're working on that. And some young arms in relief and some young guys in the field. So it's coming together at the right time. I mean, we played some pretty good baseball early. We're just pleased where we are. It's, the gauntlet's coming up with Walton this week and some really tough teams over spring break, and then Cherokee, and then Blessed Trinity, and then on into the playoffs. So you need to be peaking right now.
Certainly, Coach. And then just what's your thoughts? You mentioned a little bit. I just want you to delve in a little bit more, but just the young arms. I mean, you put them in sometimes tough spots. They're young. They're figuring everything out. But what's your thoughts just on what they've been able to produce this year and not really have a drop-off?
Well, fortunately, I've got the senior arms in Jackson Rose and, Sharms a junior, and then Jack Turner's a senior also. So that we're getting some really good depth. The starting pitching's been there, but they've been able to be extended. So my relievers, the guys that came up last this year, is Ledford and Brady Colton and Curcio, Nate Curcio. They just haven't had to be extended. Fortunately they just haven't really been in a tight closeout game. Maybe a game early in the year, but. So they're pretty much untested in region must-win situations. Colton pitched well at North Paulding to kind of get us through there. Ledford did as well. So, we're just glad when we go. I love it when Sharman and Rose and Turner go 7 innings. I've always thought that my starter, I don't care what year it was, my starter's better than somebody I got to bring out of the bullpen.
Very true, Coach. And last one before I throw it to Craig, he'll ask you a little bit about Walton. But just what's your thoughts on Trevor Condon? Obviously, we know how phenomenal he is, but he made the Tennessee. What have you seen from him in terms of this year?
Trevor's got a motor that just runs 90-0 all the time, and is a great guy to have in the leadoff hole because he runs so well. He's going to put the play, and when he gets on, he's a threat to go anytime. And to see the way he's really hit the weight room over the last couple of years, because he really he's got a plus arm now. He didn't used to have that kind of arm. He's always been able to run real well, and hitting with pop, from the left side, it's just a great way to have a guy at the top. You feel like something's going to happen when we can turn the lineup over to get back to him and Dion and Sharman and Anderson and Borcherding and those guys.
And then, Coach, you played Walton last year. I think it was your season opener. You guys obviously won state, had a great season. Walton was a very talented team last year. How familiar are you guys with this Walton team? And, I mean, how big is this 3-game stretch at this point in the season, just in terms of the implications in the region?
Well, like I said, we played them early last year, and, of course, they used to be in our region. And when I was at Milton, we always played them. And those guys are perennial region champions and state playoff guys. And I think they've got a lot of guys back. They graduated a couple of arms. I'm looking forward to this series. I've not been to their new park. And I know 1 to 9, they've always got run. They put a lot of pressure on you. They've got a bunch of strike throwers. The way our region's set up, it's kind of hard to get to see people play as much as you'd like to going into a game like this. I know it's just an exciting series. Certainly,
and I think you were talking about those tight situations. I know we had Walton's coach on. They have had some comebacks, some late inning rallies in the region, but you guys have identical region standings. How important is it for you guys to have that home field in the playoffs again? Just being in 6A, knowing what the travel might look like, having to potentially go down to places like Lowndes.
Yeah, yeah. This is crucial to try to win this series. 2 out of 3 is the goal. To win the week is always our goal. Win the week, and good things will happen. So, they did. They swept North Paulding and we didn't. They took 2 out of 3 against Cherokee, who is the series after this. So we go Walton, Cherokee's back to back, and we know Cherokee's strong too. And so let's just take them one at a time. This game on the road tonight, and it's going to be exciting baseball. It's a great place to be. A new park. A lot of they've got great fan support. We'll travel well. And then we only have one day off. Normally we play Tuesday, doubleheader Friday. So this week it's Tuesday, doubleheader Thursday. So great week of baseball. The weather looks great. I'm just really excited to get out there and compete against one of the best teams in the state.
And then in terms of Etowah, I mean, the last few years, I feel like you guys have really established yourselves. You've gone up in the national polls. When did you get the sense that Etowah had arrived as a program, just with all the great players that have come through, and what the expectations were going to be year in and year out?
I don't think we've arrived yet. I mean, I tell you, I don't look at all that stuff. It's kind of, I don't read the press clippings. I can tell you, it's very difficult for me, for people that are making these rankings, to believe that losing Angelakis to Georgia Tech and Hughes to Southern Miss and Zahner and Sabo and our leadoff hitter Adams, losing 5 dudes that we're supposed to be as good as we were last year. And yes, we've replaced some of those guys, but they're juniors or sophomores or freshmen that are unproven. So it's exciting to receive some recognition, but the wins or loss will dictate where you should be at the end of the year. I think the years that then when Deion Cole and Sharman and Matthew Sharman and Trevor came in, Trevor Condon as freshmen, and started right away, and we started. Of course, we had Hughes and Angelakis as our 1 and 2 pitching, so those guys pitched as freshmen also. So those guys were juniors when I had those freshmen. So we just had dudes. I mean, and just really happy everybody's still here and got those guys back another year.
And then who's going to be taking the mound for you guys tonight?
Sharman will start game 1.
Okay.
Sharman goes because he plays first base when he's not pitching. So Sharman will always throw the first game of the series. He can play the first base during the DH.
And then I noticed the schedule. You guys don't really have too much time off, but is spring break coming up? Is that why you guys have scheduled some of those non-region games, Stony Brook, Newton, Houston County?
Right. We're at the tournament up, and it's not a tournament, just some games, some great teams coming together to play on turf, and team coming in from New York, a couple of guys here in Georgia, Houston County, East Coweta, Cherokee's in it. It's just a great venue for guys that travel.
Coach, can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I might have missed the last question, but just playing those quality teams at Lake Point, trying to get ready to play Cherokee the week after the break.
That's right. And then, I mean, is there a challenge for spring break, or is that a beneficial time of year for you guys without the school, without the distractions, or is that unique?
I mean, we all do it. It's just a matter of whether we're going to travel to Florida or travel somewhere and play. We traveled early this year to do our little team bonding and play some great teams, and Lowndes and those guys down there, Stars Mills and Lambert early. So to stay here local is good. You get some good practice time, get some rest, take a few days off, play some good quality baseball, but you're not on the road so much. And, I'm just glad to be around here.
For sure. Well, Coach Robinson, that's all the time that we have for today. We'll say thanks so much for coming on, talking about your great Etowah team. We can't wait to see what you guys do here and in the future.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate what you guys do for Georgia baseball.
Yes, sir. Anytime, Coach. All right, guys, coming up after the break, we will break down our baseball rankings with Craig Sager, so don't go anywhere. Come right back here on the Peachtree Sports Network.
Georgia High School Sports Daily is presented by GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com. Transform your future today. And by Smart Local 85. Sheet metal is a smart move.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. Remember, guys, you can catch the show on the CBS Sports local streaming app, Zeem, also on the Atlanta News First app, and on the Peachtree Sports Network via YouTube TV. And remember, the show is always powered by IBEW Local 613. All right, it is time for our baseball rankings, Greg. Some shifts, some changes. We know the top looks heavy. Got a top 2 matchup as we pull up the rankings. Number 1 versus number 2, Etowah and Walton. I mean, that's the matchup of the week, Craig. I got to ask, are you going to go through these rankings? Got to give me a prediction. Who are you rolling with?
I think I can't picture a sweep. Just too much talent. I would stick with my rankings, say Etowah maybe takes 2 out of 3, but tonight's game is huge. It's going to be at Walton. It will get this series started, and as I mentioned, they want to squeeze it in before spring break, so there's only 1 day rest before the next 2 games of the series. Both are 11-1 in the region. Walton's coming off a big-time sweep against Wheeler, where they outscored Wheeler 39-0. So they're playing as well as they can. I think it'll be a big one. I want to talk about the rest of the rankings real quick, though. Parkview, number 3, very talented team. They are 13-4. All 4 of their losses have been decided by just 1 run. They lost by 1 run to, I think it was Marist, Houston County, Buford, all top 10 teams. You see Buford at number 4. They're playing extremely well. They're 8-1 in Region 8. North Gwinnett, 16-1. They've won 10 straight now. And then Lowndes, 13-5. They've won 5 straight, just 1 loss in the region to Colquitt County. North Paulding, very talented team in that same region as Etowah and Walton. Walton swept North Paulding. Etowah took 2 of 3. So that's how they each had that 1 loss. Walton had 1 loss to Cherokee. Etowah 1 loss to North Paulding, but they both won the series. And then you have another big series to watch. Number 8, East Coweta, and number 9, Carrollton. East Coweta is 16-2. I put them slightly ahead of Carrollton, but I think that's going to be a very even series. It probably will determine the region. And then Grayson, after an 0-4 start, has won 14 of their last 16. Same exact thing they did last year when they made that run all the way to the finals.
All right, there you have it. That is 6A. Let's go to 5A, Craig. And the team I know you wanted to highlight was Dunwoody, a big-time win for them against Woodward Academy. They're now up to 18 straight. Just what impressed you the most about them?
Yeah, well, 5A is so talented right now. I couldn't take any team off. I really wanted to put Woodward Academy in the rankings, but they were undefeated, 12-0 in that region, only 1 loss. Dunwoody had a big comeback last night in their game. I think they were down 4-1 heading into the 6th inning. Dunwoody was able to get that 6-5 victory, a huge win for them, but they still have 2 more games. That's 17 straight wins for Dunwoody. I think if Woodward takes the game in the series, they will be able to enter the rankings. Villa Rica has also been playing phenomenal. You get them number 5. They've won 17 straight, same as Dunwoody. Pope's on an absolute tear. They just swept 3 straight region opponents, Sequoia, River Ridge, and Creekview. So they're 9-0 in their region right now. Effingham County is 18-3. Winterboro dropped a little bit after their loss to Loganville in their series. And then you got Noonan and South Paulding, 2 teams that only have about 5 losses, but they have played tough competition, and I could not bump them out.
All right, there you have it. Let's go to 4A now at the top. Blessed Trinity just got a sweep over Cale. In those 3 games, they've won 12 straight. And how about Allatoona? We just talked about them in our headline, Craig, that no-hitter series that they just had in a big-time win. And that was 7-game winning streak, 8-1 region record.
Yeah, Allatoona didn't go up or down this week, though, but I did put St. Pius at number 3. St. Pius is 18-0 now, and they had that win over Dunwoody to open the season. So they swapped with Cal at number 3. But Allatoona, they've had a phenomenal week also. You start to see North Oconee start to heat up. They're 14-4, 5-1 in their region. Marist, very underrated team, 13-4 overall. They're 7-0 in their region. Stars Mill, after starting the season 0-3, they're 13-4 now. Ware County, 17-1. We talked about St. Pius moving up. Central Carroll still undefeated, 18-0. They moved up to number 7 this week. And you got Wayne County, very talented team at number 10. And then Kell fell all the way to number 9. Not only did they get swept in 3 games, 2 Blessed Trinity, they lost 1 game before that. So 4 straight losses for Kell. I did not bump them out of the poll, though, just because BT is the top team, so you can't penalize them too much for that.
For sure. All right, 3A, Craig. Obviously, we know how good Harlem is. They're at the top of your rankings. LaGrange has had another awesome season. They're at number 2. And Pickens at number 5. How good are they?
Yeah, Pickens was at number 2 every week up until last. They had their first series loss, knocked them down to number 5. But then Oconee County this last week, they dropped 2 of 3 to Jefferson. So they went all the way from number 2 to number 7. LaGrange took advantage of that. They moved up to number 2. They've won 4 straight. They're 7-1 in Region 2. Very talented team. Troop moved up to number 6. Oconee County fell to number 7 after that loss to those losses to Jefferson. You still got Dawson County, Whitewater, and Cherokee Bluff in that poll.
All right, there you have it. All right, let's go to 2A. At the top is Morgan County, followed by Rockmore. Rockmore made a big jump in your poll this week, Craig, followed by Ringo, Appleton County, and Redan.
Yep, and Rockmart made that jump because they, despite being a public school, they have some big-time private schools in their region, and that is North Cobb Christian. They took that series against them, so that is huge. You beat a defending state champ like Rockmart did in the region. That moved them up to number 2 this week. Pierce County dropped 1 spot just because I wanted to put Rockmart up so high, reward them for that big victory. East Jackson is very underrated in my opinion. They've had phenomenal victories this season. They're really high in the max preps because of their strength of schedule. And then you had Stevens County also debuting, and then Franklin County moved into number 8 this week. They took a game against Prince Avenue Christian in their region.
Wow.
Took 1 of 3, but they beat the best team in the private division, so I had to put him in there.
For sure. Obviously, great job by you, Craig. All right, Class A Division 1, Jeff Davis at number 2. At the top is Gordon Lee. Jeff Davis also took a pretty big jump this week, Craig.
Yep, they jumped up to number 2. I believe they're 16-1 or 18-1 on the season. They moved just 1 spot ahead of Social Circle. Social Circle dropped 1 spot, and then you have Swainsboro moved up to number 5 this week into that top 5. They've had a great season. Worth County, Elbert County, Pepperell, and Bremen rounding out the top 10. No new teams this week, but Jeff Davis was the jump.
All right, Class A Division 2 at the top there. Got Lanier County, Macon Charter, Irwin County, and Charlton County.
I think this one is pretty wide open. Lanier County had the big head-to-head win over Irwin County last week. Took 2 of 3. Irwin County is sitting at number 3. And then Baconton Charter jumped up to number 2. They, I believe, only have 1 loss this season. They're playing phenomenal. Charlton County slid slightly down. Bowden moved up 1 spot to number 5. And then you still have Miller County and Slide County holding on. Their Miller County debuted last week, so they are solidifying their spot.
All right, as we wrap up, Craig, at the top of Class A 3A private, you got Prince Avenue Christian, Lovett, Athens Christian, Holy Innocents, and obviously Hebron Christian.
Yep, Athens Christian, I finally committed to them. They are the real deal. I moved them all the way from number 7 to number 3 this week. I have a lot of confidence in the way they've been playing. They replaced Wesleyan at number 3. Wesleyan dropped a 15-5 loss to Holy Innocents, so that opened up an opportunity for them. And then North Cobb Christian getting swept by Rockmart. That allowed Athens Christian to jump all the way to number 3.
All right, there you have it, guys. That is our rankings report for baseball. Coming up after the break, we will talk to John Reid of Rome and get the latest around the Wolves.
We celebrate the athletes, the buzzer beaters, the record breakers, the wins. Now, it's time to celebrate the people behind it all. The advice givers, the community shapers, the game changers, the life changers. It's time to celebrate our coaches. Join all of us at BSN Sports and show your coach some love by sharing their story with #ThankYouCoach.
Dang, where you get this car?
You need to join the union.
The union?
Absolutely. You can get 10 of these.
Union construction workers earn the highest wages with the best benefits and the most protection in the construction industry. Find your career in construction. Go to GeorgiaConstructionCareers.com and start your future today.
A journeyman with Local 85, when you turn out, you can be hitting 6 figures.
Hey, I have your back, you have my back. We're gonna do this together. We're one for all for one.
College just wasn't for me. let's look into actual career jobs that wouldn't take college, where I wouldn't, lose money and all that. Instead of losing a lot more money at the end, why not make money and make more money at the end?
What happens after you graduate? Will you go to the next level? Will people have your back in the heat of the battle? Will you still train like a champion in pursuit of greatness? You will when you become an IBEW electrician. Join our team. Visit IBEW613.org.
All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Daily. It's now time to talk to the head coach for the Warren Wolves. That is John Reid. Excited to have him on the show and to bring him on. What's going on, Coach Reid? How's everything?
How you doing? Just great to be on the show. Talk about football in March. That's awesome.
Yeah, spring's right around the corner, so we had to talk to one of the best programs in the state.
Oh, no question. We're so happy about what our kids are doing this winter, and it's just a great place to be. Rome, we got great coaches, great administration, awesome facilities. So it's just been outstanding for us to get a chance to work with these kids for year 2025.
Yes, sir. Year 2025. And speaking of, Coach, I want to ask you just a little bit. I know last year it wasn't an easy time around August. I know obviously everything that happened with the bus situation and everything. Just how did that just help your team, Coach, just propel you guys and using that adversity just to go throughout the season?
Well, it's nothing anybody wants to go through or they're prepared for. And it took quite a while for us to recover from that, not only from a physical standpoint, but just from all the ramifications of being in a situation like that where the bus flips over 3 times. And there's a lot that comes out of that that's not just, the physical injuries. But as I think it did help us to group together, man. I tell you what, when you talk about being together, you should see how hard those kids work to get each other out of the bus that night. So it's never happened, probably never happened again, and not something I wish on anybody, but we end up coming out of that pretty good.
Yes, sir. And then, Coach, obviously you guys in the Corky Kell, we know how special it is just being at that Rome Barron Stadium. You playing Creekside, a familiar opponent you've seen over the years. Just what's your initial thoughts on that matchup and going up against, another really good team here in the state of Georgia?
Yeah, we've played so many great teams in the Corky Kell. We played Creekside prior to this year, and we would have played them last year, but obviously we were, unfortunately we were in the bus wreck. But it's for us, we just get prepared for the same type of Creekside team you're going to see every year, and Maurice does such a great job with them that you're going to have to be ready. You're going to have to be ready early, and I think it helps with that kind of opponent on the horizon to mention it during your workouts in the winter and so forth and so on, because there's going to be no way to escape having to play great football against them.
100%, Coach. And then I want to ask you about just the growth of your quarterback. Hayden McPherson had a really good year for you last year. Just what's your thoughts on him and your playmakers like J.J. Winston as well? Guys really going outside.
That's the thing with Rome football is one thing we're kind of blessed this year with depth at quarterback. We've got Braxton Anderson, who took it over for Hayden when he got a wrist injury, and so that's nice to have. And then we have some playmakers in JJ and Darnell Collins, and then we'll have good running backs. And the biggest thing is right now developing that cohesiveness with the offensive line. But we're excited to have those junior receivers back and try to put a couple younger guys with them and build their skills. So that is fun to look forward to as the year approaches.
And Coach Reid, you're talking about how you were pleased with what you saw from the team just in the winter months. Describe kind of just the workout preparation and what did impress you about it.
I think that one of the things is our coaches just do a great job, and our strength coach, Muhammad Abdulif, he does a tremendous job preparing our kids and trying to bring them to the preparation for spring football and getting in shape for that. And it takes a whole different perspective. And then the kids have really adapted well to it. We work out first thing in the morning. So, the attendance is, it's Rome High School. So there is no question the attendance is going to be great, but the effort's been great. And we see the kids developing, muscle wise and all that. And these little guys that came in as freshmen are now juniors and seniors that they're growing into big, strong athletes. So that's exciting to see.
And Coach, I want to ask you about something we haven't really talked about too much, but what about the middle school program at Rome that has allowed you guys just to really stay competitive year in and year out, build that next group of leaders? Just how much success have they had? I think I remember you saying that you knew that group was going to be special back in 2017 just from when they were middle schoolers.
Yeah, I think that, we put a lot of emphasis in the middle school program, and the administration have allowed us to hire. We have, I think, 3 coaches at every level, 6th, 7th, and 8th. And Charles Smith kind of heads that up. And, they kind of follow our calendar, and the kids come in from our youth league that's kind of propelled that into being competitive every year. And you can see, they have a tough schedule, but you can see the talent sometimes. And we really had a good 8th grade group this year, so we're excited about them. And some of those kids, we're projected they're going to hit the field for us.
And then defensively, it was so funny when we talked to Joe Wilkinson, just what it meant to him to be on that Rome defense, just walking around town, just that reputation that's been built on that side of the ball, knowing if you're out there starting on a Friday night, you're tough, you're the real deal. Who do you expect just to be kind of a leader this year that's really going to represent that defensive attitude and toughness?
Well, I think that's a great question. And as far as who is it going to be, but it also is a good question because it brings up the fact that we do play great defense, and it starts with that. And we've scored a ton of points. We've led the state in scoring, but a lot of that comes from having a good defense, getting the ball back to your offense. And I think that our structure and our foundation has been based on that, being a tough, hard-nosed, good tackling team. And Joe was certainly a great reflection on that. And I think Dash Kennebrew for this year, he was a region player of the year last year, and he'll be really tough at outside backer, defensive end position. And then there's some others that I think that could really be good as Jalen Montgomery. And Darnell Collins will also be in the secondary, and he has multiple SEC offers and other offers. So I think those are some guys to look forward. And then it's always fun to speculate on the guys that we talk about in our meetings as to who might be a really, really good player that nobody's heard of. Like J.J. Winston, nobody had heard of him last year. And I'm hoping there's a few guys like that on defense that at the end of the year, they'll go, wow, those guys really played well for Rome this year. And that's the fun of the winter and early spring.
And then what about your spring schedule? Are you guys going to do an inner squad, or are you guys going to get to play some other teams?
We've traditionally done the inner squad, and then the OTAs will go on in June and July, and we've got some good ones scheduled there. But we've kind of in the spring kind of kept it to inner squad. I really didn't want to utilize, or I guess waste valuable time in fundamentals and the basics of football and preparing for somebody else. I think you got to prep for somebody to have a spring game. So we've kind of stayed away from that. But we got an interesting schedule in our spring, and in the fact that we will practice 2 days and then have what we call red gold scrimmage every 3rd day. So the kids get a lot of live to give us a lot of film to watch.
And then, Coach, I want to ask you, you mentioned it a little bit, but just want you to go a little bit more in depth. Obviously, Craig asked you about the middle school program, but the 2028 class, from what I've been hearing per sources, that's obviously there's close to Rome. They say it's very special. Just what's your initial thoughts on that class coming in? Will we see maybe some young guys play? I know it's still way early, Coach. I know you got to go through the spring and everything, but just initial guys you could see maybe in the field.
Yeah, well, we do a unique thing, and that's what we meet with every parent, sit down with them of the 8th graders. And we did that this year. And then we identified probably 6 to 8 kids that probably should practice with us as a varsity practice instead of with the freshmen, because the freshmen also do spring. And I think some of those kids, of course, there's great talent in the quarterback's position is Zach Parker. And that team was really talented. They have great receivers and a Beasley kid. And they're, without naming too many kids, they're just some good size and speed. And those kids are doing some 4-on-1s with us. There's a London kid that could hit the field as a defensive end, and a McGinnis kid that could see some time as a receiver. It's kind of up to them at this point. And the other kids that are up there waiting for their shot aren't going to just let them walk on the field. So it's going to be a great competition. But there is some talent down there, and it's fun to have around.
100%, Coach. I know that's all the time we have for today. We're going to say, can't wait to see what this Rome Wolves can do. We would love to have you back on the show here soon, Coach.
Oh, anytime. Thanks for having us, man. We love it. We love football and love having you guys be a part of our program and invite us onto the show. And Georgia high school football didn't get any better than that. So we're so excited and appreciate the opportunity today.
Yes, sir. Go Wolves.
Go Wolves.
All right, guys. There goes head coach John Reid. Coming up after the break, we will break down Hayden's high school hits with the latest stories he's working on, and also talk about On3 industry rankings that just dropped for the 2027 class. All right, welcome back to Georgia High School Sports Day. We're now joined by Hayden Gilbert to talk about Hayden's high school hits. So before we hit the football segment, I do want to talk about a story you recently just did, Hayden. Talked about Appleton County boys soccer, really great piece by you. Why are you excited about that team and think they could be potentially dangerous?
I mean, you look at, I'll just go Appleton County as a whole from all of its sports programs. They're good at just about everything. And you look at the improvement they made over the past 2 years. Before last year, they were not a good soccer program. They were 4 wins a year, maybe 5. I think one year they had 7. Then last year they go and win 15, make the second round. And this year they are really dominating that region. And with the power rankings, and now you're not going to get a second round opponent that's should be a 1 seed as a 2 seed because of the power rankings. Right. I think they have a chance to at least make the quarterfinals and maybe make a deeper push than even that.
Yeah, that's a good point because if they win the region, they'll automatically have a top 8 seed.
They'll have a top 8 seed and really higher than that because of a lot of these private schools are going to be out, so they're going to get pushed up even higher.
That's a great point. Yeah. And so you were saying they've gone from like 5 wins to 7, and where are they at right now?
Right now they're already I think they're 10-5. They have one game left in the regular season, which means that they're going to end their regular season early. But you really look at this team, and they have the second leading scorer into maybe the leading scorer. They don't have all their stats in from all their games. And they're just a really balanced team. They're good defensively. They score at a pretty high rate. Everything, when you just look at them as a whole, they're a really good soccer team.
All right, well, there you have it. Great article by Hayden. Go to scoreatail.com and go check that out. All right, guys, it is time to start with our On3 rankings. They recently dropped the 2027. But before that, we're going to play a clip back in October out of the recently donned 4-star out of Gainesville, their star quarterback, Kareem Hughley. I do have a hot take on the show today that I want to reveal. I'm sure some people know it. Some people might not call it a hot take. But I'm going to say it right here. Kareem Hughley is the next star in our sport here in Georgia high school football. I've seen enough. I've seen him in person. I'm telling you guys right now, Gainesville got something special at the quarterback position. You can call, contact whoever you want. Okay, we've seen what he did at Westlake on Peachtree Sports Network, 5 touchdowns. We see what he did this past week against Roswell, 6 touchdowns, 400 yards passing. He's the next star in the sport. It's time for colleges to start waking up and seeing his talent. It's just true. That's my hot take today, but I'm going to throw it to Craig for the Mr. Georgia watch list. That's the hot take for today. All right, perfect. So that's that. I do want to get you guys' reaction. I think we have a graphic. I want you guys to see the graphic, too, if we do have it. But he was recently done a 4-star. Here it is right here. He tweeted it out. Just what is you guys' reaction? Craig, I'll start with you and then talk to Hayden.
Well, I want to ask Hayden about this specifically. Gainesville obviously has had so many talented quarterbacks. There's a lot of pressure for him, just guys like Deshaun Watson coming through there. What do you think the expectations are for him now that he has kind of burst in the scene? He's got the 4-star status. Just what we've seen from him so far, and then what his potential is.
I think moving forward, the expectation for him at Gainesville is to take that next step forward from being a really good quarterback to being a great quarterback. We normally see it going into that junior season. From that sophomore to junior season, we normally see this big growth in quarterbacks, not size or stature-wise, but just from their understanding of the game. I think when you look at him, we always go to Deshaun Watson again, so I think he is probably a little closer to someone like Blake Sims that was there in stature. And the weird thing that they do is he's a really good athlete. I've watched him since he was in 8th grade. He's a much better athlete than they show. They just don't use that part of his game. And I think we saw it a few times in the Milton game when he was just able to get loose. But I think this year's going to be interesting from the fact of they don't have a ton of they lose a ton of wide receiver talent. Mm-hmm. They lose two D1 guys in Jeremiah Ware and King. Yep. And then they lose basically their entire receiving room. So this year, I think it's going to be more on his shoulders. The running game should be better. The offensive line should take that another step forward. Mm-hmm. But I think it's going to be a lot more on his shoulders.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. He had the 22 touchdowns last season, only 2 interceptions. But to me, he didn't have it wasn't an offense where they're going to pass 80% of the time. And he didn't really have 5-star weapons around him. So what do you see just in terms of the Gainesville passing attack this year?
To Hayden's point, obviously, it'll look different at receiver. I'm sure they're going to have some guys in there that's going to be ready to go. I do think, however, this is his year to take that next step to Hayden's point. I think defensively they're a lot better. And I think what's going to help him, Hayden, is the running game. Last year it was good with Carmelo Bird, but you had a linebacker playing running back. This year they got Nigel Newkirk. That's a really good back, man. Top 20-27 back. You ain't got to really do too much. Give it to the tight end. They got a really underrated tight end that plays for them as well. If he can continue to take care of the football, I think Gainesville, we might be having to have that conversation as contender status this year. I know they don't have the receiving core that they've had in years past, Hayden, but I do think when you couple a really good defense with a running game and how he takes care of the football, how elite of a thrower, and he can buy time and improvise, they should be in that conversation.
Well, and I think to add to that, you look at this team, if you go look at those rankings, you go to the interior offensive line rankings. Yep. They have 3 guys that are ranked 3 stars. They have Kyle Ford, they have Carter Mathis, and they have Hurts that just transferred in from Duluth. Yep. You look at all 3 of those guys and you really take a hard look. You go, okay, I think Mathis and Ford really need to take that next step forward. Yep. But they definitely can. And if they can take that next step forward, you're going to look at this team and go, Kareem Hughley doesn't have to be that guy because you have Nigel Newkirk back there. You have some young guys at running back, and they're not going to have to do too much because they have 4 or 5 guys on that offensive line that are going to be great.
Exactly. It's going to make his job easier. Real quick, I know we got about 45 seconds to close. Anybody on that list that caught your eye that may be underrated? There's a couple guys on there that I didn't know about that's on there.
The kid from Hampton, Kamari, I just won't play Dorsey.
Yes.
He was on my radar as a really good player. Top 10 in the country is just far and away higher than I thought he was. So now I'm going to have to go back and watch film and take a look at him and really look at him objectively.
For sure. Anybody that caught your eye real quick, Craig?
I haven't seen the list yet.
Gotcha.
But where do you think, I mean, he's a 4-star already. Do you think that's just how far ahead he is just as a sophomore last year? That's why he has that 4-star?
100%. I think what he proved, those games that he had on Peachtree Sports Network against Westlake, obviously the big game against Roswell. I mean, I think those are the games that really put him on the map and helped him take another level.
Yeah, for sure.
100%. Well, guys, that's going to conclude the show for today. All the time that we have. Same place, same time tomorrow, 12 to 1, Peachtree Sports Network. Your favorite show during the afternoon, Georgia High School Sports Daily. We'll see you then.
Hey, is the power off on this?
I don't know. Just take it off. Safety violation, unsafe work conditions.
In the construction trades unions, safety is our highest priority, and we train you to recognize and speak out on unsafe working conditions so that everyone arrives and goes home safely. Learn about careers in construction